responsibilities of appointment, promotion, and disciplinary control of officers of the Nigerian Police Force, except the Inspector General of Police. Your assignment is enormous and calls for sacrifice and commitment, especially now that nearly every country is faced with severe internal security challenges. Nigeria is no exception.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party?
I wish to see
coming into
communication and
power come 2019. This administration will succeed and succeed.
This is necessary to the overall and securing the country. Listen to your challenges and constraints, especially on funding and office accommodation. I want to assure you that the government will do its to make sure you have the necessary support both in funding and good environment to carry out your constitutional responsibilities.
Marx, I highlighted a lot of things that are in Kanu. Yes, at 2012. They graduated last year, were commissioned also as ASP. Over 600 of them. And the new set is getting ready. We are being shortlisted, being screened. They, I'm sure, will resume later in the year or early next year. That one was there. And I also let him know that we are very particular about ensuring that force is merit-driven. And we have so many disciplinary actions, misbehaving personnel, on complaints from members of the public about some personnel. And this cost a lot of during the year. So many reduced, and even some with very bad cases, criminal cases, after being dismissed, were handed over to police to be prosecuted.
After about 8 weeks of recess, the House of Representatives has resumed plenary. The resumption comes a week ahead of that of the Senate. While it is unclear what would be topping the agenda of today's plenary, one of the issues to be discussed could be included in the 2020 appropriation bill, among other things. The National Assembly had repeatedly asked the executive to submit the budget either by the end of September or by the first week of October to enable them to pass it before the end of the year. They are, however, yet to receive the budget from President Muhammadu Buhari. As the House of Representatives reconvenes after 6 weeks and 8 weeks after recess, the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, has assured the country of the accelerated passage of the controversial Petroleum Industry Bill (PIB), which will be reintroduced and passed by the 9th Assembly. Gbajabiamila, who gave the assurance on Tuesday in his speech at the resumption of plenary, also urged the ad hoc committee to expedite action on issues and hand over to standing committees by September 30th. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Ikiba was there and files in this report.
The 9th Assembly has reconvened after a 6 weeks break with a renewed vigor to tackle very important issues of national and international concern. One of such is the Petroleum Industry Bill, which has been on the floor of the House for 16 years without passage, and the Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila has assured that the Ninth Assembly will surmount the obstacles that have mitigated against its passage to address the structural operational policy of oil exploration in the country.
I fully expect that in this session, the House of Representatives will consider important legislation such as the Petroleum Industry Bill. I believe that we in this Ninth Assembly are ideally suited to surmount the obstacles that have mitigated against passage of this essential reform legislation, which is important if we are to properly address the structural, operational, and policy changes and inefficiencies in that industry.
Gbajabiamila says work will continue on pending bills, motions, and probes, as emphasis will be on critical legislations.
Petroleum Industry Bill, we will seek the reintroduction of the bill prohibiting estimated billing in the power industry, intended to put a permanent end to the wastefulness and unfairness created by an unreliable and arbitrary system that imposes unforeseen costs on individuals and businesses alike. The Education Bank Bill, designed to ensure that no child in this 21st century is unable to get a quality tertiary education in Nigeria due to a lack of means, and the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Bill, which will serve to broaden the Local Content Act and ensure the original intent of the Act is made real in the lives of our people, will also be considered.
The Speaker also directed all ad hoc committees to wind up and hand over their report to standing committees by September 30. He further announced completion and submission of the report of the ad hoc committee on legislative agenda for the 9th House, promising that it will be tabled before members for debate, amendment, and adoption as the agenda that will serve as the touchstone in the 9th Assembly. Clara Kiba, CoreTV News, Abuja.
President Muhammadu Buhari has dissolved the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property, as currently constituted, with Okoy Ogbonobla as the chairman. The Attorney General of the Federation, Minister of Justice, has been directed to immediately take over all outstanding investigations and other activities of the panel. The panel was established in August 2017 by the then acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, to investigate specifically mandated cases of corruption, abuse of office, and similar offenses by public officers. Okoy Ogbonobla's suspension letter, signed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustapha, directed the embattled official to step down and then proceed to answer questions from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. Osun State government is said to have established a partnership with French development agencies for human capital development. Governor Gboyega Oyetola was speaking while playing host to French ambassador Jerome Pasquale, who led a delegation to his office in Osogbo, the state capital. A correspondent, Abbas Okandeji, has details.
Osun State has a long-standing partnership with French development agencies, particularly on rural access and mobility projects, or RAMP. This visit of the French ambassador to Nigeria is at the instance of Governor Gboyega Oyetola's quest to attract local and foreign agencies to bring development to the states. The governor wants more partnership in cultural exchange, agriculture, and vocational training to reduce unemployment in the states.
We are known for mining and agriculture. We are opening up the mining sector. It's not regulated as it is now. It's not come out fair, but we're having a mining policy that will encourage investors, sanitize the sector to avoid all these illegal miners parading themselves and creating problems. So mining, we're blessed with huge deposits of several mineral resources. And I think that's an area that we'll be showcasing when we're doing the investment summit.
The French ambassador lauded the state for effectively utilizing and implementing the World Bank-assisted projects and rural access mobility projects. He expressed readiness of his country to partner with Osun State government in scientific, cultural, and education research.
We are very happy, and we hope we will have many other occasions, and we'll be able to establish more relations in the field of university, of culture, of economy, which obviously is very important. And we are, the French team, at your disposal if you need anything from the French embassy, from the French authorities, if you want us to work on specific programs. And I hope the Agence Française de Développement will also work on the continuation of what they have done till now.
The French ambassador had earlier paid a courtesy call on the Ooni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi.
I came to see the work done by the archaeological team headed by Professor Chouin. And the fact that the French government is supporting the archaeological research here in Ife shows the importance we recognize this city.
We are really discovering quite a lot of things in Ife right now. And as a result, we are partnering with a lot of researchers all over the world. And you can see obviously now, they're here, the entire French government crew, to support us and to inspect things they've done in the past.
Abbas Okondeji, CoreTV News, Osogbo.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Ibrahim Mohammed Tanko, has called on judges in the country to double their efforts in the discharge of their judicial functions so as to decongest their courts. The CJN, who spoke at the 35th Annual Conference of the Judges of the Federal High Court, said that much is expected from the judges because of the nature of their courts. A judiciary correspondent, Basilo Kafa, was there.
The CJN, who was represented by a Court of Appeal Justice, Mohammed Shuaibu, congratulated the Federal High Court judges for witnessing another conference and urged them to use the occasion to sharpen their skills in order to ensure quick dispensation of justice. While declaring the conference open, the CJN urged the judges to be transparent and live above board and be guided by their oath of office.
My Lord the Chief Justice instructed me to say congratulations to each and every one of you for coming to the new legal year. My Lord the Chief Justice also implore you to redouble your effort in discharging your judicial functions.
In a speech at the conference, the acting Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, renewed his appeal for more judges for the court to enable them cope with the workload of cases pending before the court. The acting Chief Judge said that while awaiting the appointment of new judges, that those presently on the bench should endeavor to put their best to reduce the burden that the shortfall will have caused the court in terms of speedy adjudication of cases.
As I stated earlier in the speech, at the special court session marking the new legal year, efforts will be made to see that new judges are appointed to help achieve our goal to quickly and efficiently adjudicate cases pending in our courts.
Justice Soho also praised the judges of the court on the ways and manners most of the pre-election cases were handled, noting that it is a thing of joy to the judiciary that most of the cases were adjudicated upon without rancor. The conference was attended by retired judges of the court as well as eminent lawyers in the country. Basil Okafor, CoreTV News, Abuja.
You're still watching Prime Time, reaching live from CoreTV News. We'll go on a break, and when we return, we'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us.
On Digi 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dullards that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that band.
Digi 360, providing clarity to issues.
Welcome back. A recap of our top stories. You can get more of our stories on www.coretvnews.com and other social media platforms on Facebook, facebook.com/CoreTV News. You can also tweet at CoreTV News NG on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram at CoreTV News. Watch our top stories and live reports on youtube.com/CoreTV News NG. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Wase, APC Plateau State, has been sworn in as the first Deputy Speaker of the Economic Community of West African States Parliament. The swearing-in was performed by the Speaker of the Parliament, Honorable Mustafa Cisse Lu, at the opening of the second extraordinary session of the Parliament in Monrovia, Republic of Liberia. This was contained in a statement issued by his spokesman, Umar Puma, and made available to newsmen in Abuja. The news agency of Nigeria reports that Wase replaced the former Deputy Speaker, Yusuf Lasson, who did not seek re-election to the Nigerian House of Representatives after the end of his tenure. The statement said that Wase, as Lasson's successor, was unanimously adopted by the Nigerian delegation to the Parliament, as well as other members of the regional legislative body. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) Commissioner in Kogi State, APAM, on Tuesday expressed worries over possible violence during the November 16 governorship elections in the state. Mr. Apam disclosed this at the unveiling of Get Out the Vote, Voter Education and Stop Violence Against Women in Politics campaign project and multi-stakeholders meeting in Lokoja, the state capital. He said that INEC had on several occasions prepared to conduct credible elections and would have always put necessary machinery in place to ensure free, fair and acceptable elections, only for such elections to be disrupted by violence. The resident electoral commissioner said that the commission intended to correct the flaws identified in the past elections during the forthcoming election, saying, "We intend to correct them and make this one a test case for elections in the country." The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, has said that there is need to ensure a competitive economy so as to have a stable macroeconomic conditions and business climate that will keep transactions and costs low, thereby encouraging savings, investment, and job creations. She made this during the address of journalists on the forthcoming 25th Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja. Our correspondent Kike Lamokere was there.
The proposed increase of the value-added tax followed the recommendation of the Presidential Technical Advisory Committee. The Minister of Finance explained that the value-added tax is not applicable on food brought from the market, road transportation, education, and medicals.
He also uses this opportunity to say that VAT is a consumption tax. It's not applicable on food. It is not applicable on any medical care equipment or medicaments. It is also not applicable on transport. So if you decide to go to the market and buy food items and go home and cook, you're not paying VAT. But if you decide to go to a restaurant and have a meal, you will pay VAT because the restaurant owner has added value by cooking the food and presenting it to you in a manner that you like, and that's why you went there in the first place. If you decide to use the train or the bus to transport yourself, you're not paying VAT. But if you have resources to use an airline, so the airline ticket has VAT. So VAT is a consumption tax.
Fielding questions from newsmen, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning says, despite the surge in global oil price to $70 per barrel, the federal government will maintain status quo regarding benchmark for oil prices.
Considering the recent events that happened in the Middle East and the soaring
oil prices. Like you know, this for now is a one-off event. So we will be monitoring the situation. If it becomes sustainable, then there might be need to adjust. But for now, we would maintain the benchmark rates that we have established in the budgets and the budget proposal for 2020.
The Minister of Finance added that Nigeria has removed from 169 points to 146th in the World Bank ranking on the ease of doing business. Kike Lomo Okiri, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The federal government says that contrary to speculations, the increase in value-added tax from 5% to 7.5% will not negatively affect the ordinary Nigerian citizens. The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, made this known while speaking to newsmen in Abuja on the sidelines of the forthcoming Nigerian Economic Summit. Kike Lomo Okiri has more in this report.
The proposed increase of the value-added tax followed the recommendation of the Presidential Technical Advisory Committee. The Minister of Finance explained that the value-added tax is not applicable on food brought from the market, road transportation, education, and medicals.
He also uses this opportunity to say that VAT is a consumption tax. It's not applicable on food. It is not applicable on any medical care equipment or medicaments. It is also not applicable on transport. So if you decide to go to the market and buy food items and go home and cook, you're not paying VAT. But if you decide to go to a restaurant and have a meal, you will pay VAT because the restaurant owner has added value by cooking the food and presenting it to you in a manner that you like, and that's why you went there in the first place. If you decide to use the train or the bus to transport yourself, you're not paying VAT. But if you have resources to use an airline, so the airline ticket has VAT. So VAT is a consumption tax.
Fielding questions from newsmen, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning says, despite the surge in global oil price to $70 per barrel, the federal government will maintain status quo regarding benchmark for oil prices.
Considering the recent events that happened in the Middle East and the soaring oil prices, like you know, this for now is a one-off event. So we will be monitoring the situation. If it becomes sustainable, then there might be need to adjust. But for now, we would maintain the benchmark rates that we have established in the budgets and the budget proposal for 2020.
The Minister of Finance added that Nigeria has removed from 169 points to 146th in the World Bank ranking on the ease of doing business. Kike Lomo Okiri, CoreTV News, Abuja.
As part of efforts to raise the standard of education in Ogun State, the state governor, Dr. Abiodun, has stated that his administration is set to introduce e-learning in public schools. Dr. Abiodun made this known at the Interfaith Thanksgiving and Praise program organized to celebrate his victory at the Governorship Petition Election Tribunal over the weekend held at Kuto, Abeokuta, the state capital. The governor said the e-learning is not meant alone for learning but also for training and monitoring of teachers and students with SIMS, SIMS and PINs. He explained that the e-learning platform would also help the teachers to be in tune with latest international academic circular.
We're also introducing what we call e-learning in our schools. We are now enumerating all our teachers and all our students. So each student will have a PIN number. So we know our students. We will know our teachers. We will know them when they get to school because they will have a device that will allow them to dock. When they get to school, we know this teacher is in school or teacher is not in school. That device will also allow us to help train our teachers because many of them actually You know, they have the skill, but they just are not getting the right training, so we'll train them. They will also have the curricula loaded on these their devices. My desire and hope is that those that were not with us, by now, if they had not seen the hand of God in what we're doing, it will now be obvious to them. We've said, it's not about us, it's about the state. We welcome them to come back home, if they choose to. Other parties are joining us by the day. And I'm praying for all of you, that all who rage against you will be ashamed and disgraced. Those who oppose you will be dumbfounded and confused. And so shall it be in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you very much.
Governor Coyote Fayemi of Ekiti State said that the workers in the state civil service will currently be owed 57 billion naira as arrears of unpaid salaries and emoluments. He said this at a meeting he had with the civil servant as well as a cross-section of labor leaders at the government house at Ekiti. Journalists report that Fayemi claimed that the trend was caused by irregular payment of salaries and pensions by the immediate past administration of Ayodele Fayoche. He said the arrears covered outstanding salaries and pensions, promoting arrears, leave bonuses, and other emoluments from 2014 to October 2018 when he assumed office. The governor also said that he was not part of the people that were opposed to local government autonomy. The Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong has sent a 20-man list of commissioners to the Plateau State House of Assembly. Speaker of the State Assembly, while reading the names of the nominees at the floor of the House, said the governor sent the names for the House to screen and confirm them for appointment as commissioners into the State Executive Council. The list consists of 75% of members of the whole cabinet, among whom are Regina Somblat, former Commissioner for Finance, Pam Botmang, Works, and 21 others made the list. The Speaker said a date will be set for their screening and confirmation. The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has said that his administration's development agenda was aimed at leveraging on the population of the state for sustainable socio-economic development. It disclosed this while hosting the Council General of the People's Republic of China, Chu Maohing, in Alausa on a courtesy visit. He said his administration would be expanding the state government's relationship with the Chinese government to build human capital by exposing young population in the state to training opportunities in diverse areas, including technology, agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and cultural exchange. The need to combat the importation and use of counterfeit drugs in Nigeria has again been reiterated by the National Agency for Food, Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC. This was the point of discussion at a conference put together by NAFDAC and the key healthcare stakeholders in Lagos to tackle the menace of counterfeit drugs in Nigeria through the use of trafficking and traceability of pharmaceuticals products. Our correspondent Susan Ngodo has details in this report presented from our studios.
This is a gathering put together in Lagos by the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control in Nigeria in collaboration with healthcare stakeholders. The event tagged African Healthcare Conference aims to create a dialogue between healthcare stakeholders across Africa in order to achieve better traceability of pharmaceuticals, thereby improving patient safety. Delegates present at the event emphasized on the need to mitigate substandard healthcare products in the country, picking the traceability initiative as a solution to curbing the menace.
We need a system where we can track and trace our medicines. If you look at the first video that was shown, from manufacturer in developed countries, from manufacturer you can trace the medicine to the patient, meaning to you and myself. So if you get a medicine, usually is supposed to have that barcoding that is given on the bag that has the medicine or the envelope or whatever, so that if there is a problem, they can track it to the original manufacturer. We are not there at all in Nigeria, and that's why we have a 5-year plan to get there as much as possible.
It only stands to reason that we should be discussing what we are discussing today. So that makes the theme of this conference very germane to the successful constitution of the Nigerian health system, tracking and tracing manufactured drugs to allow for safe medicine for those who use it. Because without proper medicine, we cannot cure disease. We are likely to prevent diseases.
They further emphasized the initiative will help improve the existing global healthcare supply chain, thereby creating an improvement in the availability of quality medicines.
To provide a basis where people and businesses, everybody communicates together. At the end of the day, our focus in GS1 healthcare is patient safety. That's our number one focus. And if you look at the supply chain that services that patient, is actually complex, sometimes fragmented, sometimes invisible. So you need to be able to shed some light on that supply chain. And you can only do that when you bring all the players together. And when they all come together, they submit the information, make it available, then the patient will be sure that if I have malaria and then I'm given this drug, I can trace it all the way back to the manufacturer.
There is a lot in Africa that is beneficial for the helping to counteract the counterfeits. If you look at the more than 300 people here today, there is a lot of energy, a lot of support, and a lot of understanding of the significant challenges that are facing the people of Africa. We understand that there are many things that GS1 standards can do to help identify the products in the supply chain and to help keep them safer, and in partnership with NAFDAC and all of our other partners, working together across the supply chain to keep the medical products secure.
Healthcare stakeholders at the event further declared support and commitment to ensure greater visibility of products within the supply chain and ensure improved patient care.
When prime time returns, we shall be bringing you stories from the foreign scene. Do stay tuned.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Welcome back. The United States has reportedly identified locations in Iran from which drones and cruise missiles were launched against major Saudi oil facilities on Saturday. Senior U.S. officials told media outlets that the locations were in southern Iran at the northern end of the Gulf. Saudi air defense did not stop the drones and missiles because they were pointed southwards to prevent attacks from Yemen, they added. Iran denies involvement in the attacks, which disrupted global oil supplies. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels said they were launched under drones that struck the Abaqaiq oil processing plant, the world's largest, and the Kurais oil field. They have launched attacks into Saudi Arabia before, but the U.S. officials said on Sunday they believed the drones and missiles did not originate from the south or the southwest and instead were launched from the north or the northwest. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the UK, has sought to suspend Parliament to avoid the risk of members of Parliament frustrating or damaging his Brexit plans, the Supreme Court has heard. Lawyers for campaigners challenging the suspension said there was strong evidence that the Prime Minister saw members of Parliament as an obstacle and wanted to silence them. Lady Harley, President of the court, stressed that landmark case would have no bearing on the timing of Brexit. In her opening statement, the most senior judge in the UK said she and her 10 colleagues would endeavour to address the serious and difficult questions of law raised by the case. That's the end of Prime Time tonight, but before we go, another look of our top stories. And that's a wrap on Prime Time tonight. I am Oyin Priye Krumale. Many thanks for watching. Good evening.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party coming into power come 2019?
This administration will succeed and succeed well.
You cannot be running a 4-year tenure like you are running a 20-year tenure.
He has done fairly well, especially where insurgency and terrorism is concerned.
Then it gets controversial.
They have a right to their opinion.
Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about force. Now, you see, let me say this.
So that our soldiers will be free. We should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
A very good morning to you. It's a great new week. Thank you for joining us this Monday on Core Digest, your streaming participatory breakfast program on CoreTV News Lagos. I am Abosede Omowoye. Well, and talking about the news making the rounds, the very first is about that announcement by Senator Dino Melaye earlier today that he has been arrested by officers. I'll just quickly read through that tweet. Stopped from traveling. Okay, I have just been arrested at the international wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport on my way to Morocco for an official engagement sponsored by the federal government after checking in. And the second tweet in that regard, stopped from traveling and under arrest. No retreats, no surrender. Talk we must. That's a tweet by Senator Dino Melaye, who says was arrested earlier today. That's about an hour ago. And to some other stories making the rounds. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has tonight creating...
They have a right to their opinion.
Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about force. Now, you see, let me say this.
So that our soldiers will be free. We should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
The Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dullards that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that ballot.
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela. Angela, that is a very great question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question you pose.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.